Hello, everybody, and welcome to my guide of which activities you should start early in RuneScape. RuneScape is a game with, at this point, over 20 years of content that has been building up and building up to the point where there's so many activities and so many things you can do, it can be overwhelming and difficult to figure out what you should be doing to have the most fun, to make the most money, and to save yourself the most time when you're doing things like skilling and leveling up. I'm not going to go too in depth into any one of these things in this video. The point of this video is just to kind of introduce either new players or returning players that maybe quit years ago and just came back to the game to some of the activities that I have found most beneficial to my account, which I just started up in January, so that would make it a roughly 9-month-old account. For reference, I was a long-time RuneScape player since about 2002, so about a year after it came out. Played for about 10 years, quit for about 10 years, and just started up again. So I had a lot of things to catch up on, and now I want to save you guys the hassle of figuring out what you should get started on. So let's jump right into it. First up on the list is my favorite activity to do passively in RuneScape, and the one that I am very glad I got into early. Excuse me, I coughed. To get started with your very own farm, you only need 17 farming and level 20 construction, so barrier to entry is very low. Getting your farm built up to the point where it starts turning a decent profit and decent experience does take a little bit of time, but it's not too terrible if you plan on playing RuneScape for longer than a month. Looking back, I believe it took me about 1 month to get to level 91 farming, using mostly the farm. At this point, you can start raising dragons. These will give you substantially faster experience than prior animals, and pretty good money from collecting dragon manure and selling dragons. Then, starting at level 106 farming, which might sound high if you're a new player, but trust me, with the farm, it's not. I think it took maybe another month for me to get there. You can start raising Rex dinosaurs if you've unlocked the Anachronia farm. Rexes give you Rex roars when you harvest them, which are pretty expensive herblore ingredients. So just for reference, I've been keeping track. On average, from my daily farming runs that take about 5 minutes to do between the Manor farm and Anachronia, excuse me, the Manor farm and Ardounge pronunciation, and the dinosaur farm on Anachronia, 5 minutes. I net on average 450,000 experience and about 750,000 GP. Next up is Tide for my favorite activity in RuneScape, and it is the player-owned fort. Now, this is one that I really wish I got into months earlier than I did. Like I said earlier, my account is about 9 years old at this point. I've had my forts running for about 6 months, I think, and I'm almost at maxed distance traveled, and I just barely a few days ago got my ships and my crew upgraded to the highest possible, and my crew isn't even max level yet. If you thought getting your Manor farm set up and running in about a month or two to produce some good money experience was a long time, you're going to be in for a bit of an upset with ports, because it literally will take about 4 months probably before you start producing any money or real in-game benefit from ports. In that, everything that happens in ports, all the resources you gather, all the crew you put together, largely stays within ports. It's kind of its own economy. But you eventually do start collecting what are called trade goods, and particularly ancient bones that you get from special voyages can sell for a lot of money if your fletching level is high. 90 or 92 preferably for a scrimshaw of vampirism. Takes 10 ancient bones and sells for, right now, about 5.5 million, I think. And a good voyage will get you about 8 to 10 bones. We're talking several months into having your port running, but we're also talking about 4 million per week, at least, just counting bones. So this is definitely an activity that long-term can pay for your bonds if you are doing that, or just net you the most passive, amazing money in the game. It also opens up access to a lot of really cool, unique weapons, specifically dual-wielded weapons for each combat style that aren't the highest tier available, but they're tier 88, so that's pretty good, and it'll cost you substantially less than other weapons that are tier 85 or higher. On top of that, really the reason I love ports is that you start to get voyages from different adventurers once you hit level 90 in particular skills.
Stop a moment! I got marvelous news!
So it does give you some incentive to level your skills to 90 that you otherwise might just not have. And you get pretty good rewards from it. Each adventurer has their own story, their own voyages, and they're pretty well done.
I'd like to join the crew of a ship heading east.
Wait, fine. I'll help you out. But I'm not killing anyone. Not this time.
In all, out of all activities in RuneScape, this is probably the longest haul. Like I said, about 6 months to get your port up and running and very profitable. But it is one of the most profitable and fun things you can do in RuneScape.
Flying limpy ghosts! I'm this close to embracing you.
Number 3 on my list is Anachronia. Generally speaking, getting your Anachronia base camp built up should be done as early as you can. Anachronia, generally speaking, is a high-level skilling and combat island. Most beneficial things that you can do on the island require level 90. Level 90 Slayer for the minimum Slayer tasks, level 90 farming for the large dinosaur pens, as well as level 90 construction. The same level in mining for the animical rocks, etc. But from my experience, this is another thing that I wish I did not wait so long to get started on, in that one of the things you need to do to take advantage of all these resources and activities later in the game is to build up the base camp, and that just takes time. Long story short, once you do the Anachronia tutorial and you have access to the island, you get a set of workers, and you can assign them to gather different resources. As you build up your camp, you should prioritize the sleeping quarters, which will allow you to have more and more workers. It takes a solid month at least to spend the time to gather resources. Next, I want to talk about 2 skills that are especially important to get started on as early as you can. The benefits from both of these skills are only really going to be seen later game at higher levels, but all the more reason to get started on them early. Starting with Invention. So I know I keep saying early game, but Invention does have a minimum requirement of level 80 Divination, Smithing, and Crafting, as it is the first and only elite skill in RuneScape. So it'll definitely take you some playtime to get to unlocking Invention, but just bear in mind that whenever you're looking to make money or do some skilling, AFK skilling, whatever, you should prioritize Smithing, Crafting, and Divination, because it will get you to an Invention faster. Once you unlock Invention, you reap a lot of benefits. Namely, Invention helps you level up pretty much every other skill much faster in the form of augmented equipment perks, which I won't go into now. Again, that's an entire guide that needs to be dedicated to itself. But basically, you will save a lot of time skilling. You will have a much better experience bossing and PVMing and Slayer and doing really anything in RuneScape if you have Invention perks unlocked. Once you do unlock Invention, it levels pretty fast once you can augment items and start disassembling them. Just do a bunch of combat or skilling, and then siphon or disassemble your equipment, and you get massive chunks of experience. Invention, in short, is one of the best quality of life improvement updates that RuneScape has ever released. And speaking of quality of life improvements, that leads me to the other skill, Archaeology, that you should get into as soon as you can. There is no barrier to entry to Archaeology, unlike Invention. It is RuneScape's latest skill, and definitely the most developed skill by far, I would say. It goes up to level 120, and it truly has content to guide you all the way through 120 if you wish to do so. It is impressive alone, just the new areas, all the dig sites that you have to explore, all the mysteries that you can uncover and solve, and very importantly, all of the rewards that you get from it. Namely, this comes in the form of discovering relics, which give you passive powers. Your first relic is one that gives you a 500 HP boost, which is pretty big actually if you're lower level and just starting out, and even good later on in the game. And at higher levels of Archaeology, namely 98 or 99 or so, you start getting relics that help you a lot in combat. The Fury of the Small, for example, which gets you 1% extra adrenaline buildup on your abilities, which, if you're new, may not sound like a lot, but believe me, it is, and it opens up a lot of combat opportunities that you didn't have before. And high-level archaeology opens up a lot of ways to train skills much better. Like at 99, for example, there is the bait and switch relic, so that you can get fishing and cooking at the same time, experience-wise. At level 98, you can get the Crest framework, which will help your divination training, substantially speeding up the rate at which you dump memories and convert them into energy. The list goes on, and you can continue gathering relics and finding new relics up until, I believe, level 118. So, archaeology is a skill that can keep you busy for a really long time, and most importantly, it's RuneScape's most AFK skill by far, and it is done intentionally so. Just a time gate skill to really cool abilities they can unlock. And there are pretty good money-making opportunities down the road. Again, primarily when paired with Invention, you can disassemble discovered artifacts and restored artifacts into various components that you can then sell via material crates. All right, everybody, that about concludes this video. Like I alluded to at the very beginning, there are a lot more activities and distractions, diversions, and quests, and all kinds of things you can do daily, weekly, monthly, whatever in RuneScape to keep yourself busy, to make a little GP, to get some good experience, etc. In this guide, I just wanted to cover my favorites. I am planning on making a part 2, so to speak, to this, to go over more of my favorite of those daily scape, weekly scape, other things that you should also get into if you're not already. I also plan on making videos for each separate thing I've covered here to go a little more in depth. So that's it. If there's anything you guys want to see, if you have any questions, drop them in the chat. Whoop, is it a chat? Nope, it's comments, it's YouTube. Drop them in the comments and let me know what videos you want to see, and let everybody know your favorite activities, your favorite dailies. All right, guys, peace out.